What's going on, guys? 2018, first podcast of the semester and year. It's February 6th. I know I'm kind of late. The last recording was like mid-December, and I haven't been able to get a guest on since then. Finals, winter break, and then transitioning into the new semester, focusing on paying off my credit card bills and all that stuff. But, nonetheless, I'm still here. I didn't quit. I'm still going. Today I talked to my old friend Rehat, Mannan. He was the former president of the Muslim Student Association here on Stony Brook campus. And in the conversation, we talk about a lot of things, but mainly my focus was the role of religion in his life. Both of us come from a first-generation immigrant family, but the difference between us is drastic. And it's not, good or bad in any way or sense. It's just, what has happened to us and the routes that we decided to take. So we kind of delve into our backgrounds. We talk about the role of the Muslim Student Association on campus, the role of Islamic people within general American culture today. We kind of just talk about, the modern and up-and-coming Muslim generation in American society to kind of give a better idea of those who are out there. I am kind of sick, so there's probably going to be a lot of sniffling through the recording, and I'm sorry about that. I did it again. But I tried my best not to. At times I actually even muted the mic because I had to sneeze really bad. But it shouldn't be that bad. But we talk about a lot of things. I actually learned a lot from him about my own religion. Sad to say, I'm kind of uncultured. Made me realize that I should probably know more than I do. But I think for anyone, general public, students, they could probably get a good takeaway from listening to someone in this society, group of people. Because at the end of the day, they exist, we exist, Muslim society exists, and they're an ever-growing population. And, why not learn a little bit more than you knew yesterday, I learned some stuff. I liked it. I personally think it was educational. So without further ado, episode 13 with Rehat. And I think we spent the first 2 minutes talking about Fortnite, so sorry about that. But Fortnite's a great game. Just plug real quick. It's fun. It's addicting. If you have not played it, play the game. And here we go. Semester's worth of grades and all my assignments.
This is gaming?
In the beginning of the semester. Yeah, actually, my computer broke down in the summer.
Okay.
And it was one that I had from high school. And then me and Kishan, we worked. Upgraded. Like he helped me, and built it. Because I thought about it, if I build a PC, it would last me years. Like I'll never need a new computer anytime soon.
Yeah.
I can just upgrade the RAM or whatever that I need, or the graphic card. But
you play Fortnite?
Yeah, not on PC though. I've been playing it on Xbox because all of us just like sitting outside playing Fortnite.
Bro, it's so addicting, man.
This is what I was telling my friends. They use the kind of blueprint to app ideas where it's like easily repetitive. It's like you die and you want to go again.
Yeah. And
you don't have to spectate anyone, so you just leave and you just keep going again. It's so addicting.
Yeah, I know.
But on top of that, they've been patching it and they keep making new game modes that are really fun. Like the sniper one.
There's a sniper game mode?
Yeah, there's a sniper game mode now. It's only there's two types of snipers and pistols, and that's it.
Wow. I've never got a sniper kill yet.
It's math. It's so satisfying getting a sniper kill. Also because they have drop in it too, which you wouldn't expect, but they have a little bit of drop, so you'd have to aim a little above them.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which you wouldn't think they'd put in the physics engine, but they did.
Damn.
And they also introduced a minigun to the regular game mode, which I haven't used yet.
A minigun?
Yeah.
What's that?
I don't know how to explain a minigun. Like a turret in your hand.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it's fun. We've been playing a lot lately. But so I'm gonna go into you being here now. We've been recording. I actually want to start with your family background because what I'm going to be talking about in this recording is mainly just your kind of upbringing and like your affiliations with the Muslim society and all that, because personally, like, I find it interesting because I same thing, come from a first generation immigrant family, but I took a very different route, and I just think it's interesting how both of us coming from a similar background took kind of a different route in our affiliations with the religion. So I kind of want to just say, ask you your original family background, where they're from, when they got here, stuff like that. So I just want you to start talking with that.
Sure. So both my parents are from Bangladesh. They came to America around 1990, 1991. Before that, they used to work in Saudi Arabia. They got a lottery visa to go to Saudi Arabia, and they worked in the King's Hospital. And then from there, my dad got another lottery visa to come to the United States. And
Damn, he's winning lotteries.
Yeah, no, lucky guy. And then after that...
Wait, so when was he with your mom?
He was with my mom in Bangladesh.
Okay, so
yeah.
so he went to, so he got to Saudi Arabia and then applied for her.
Yeah,
and then she went to Saudi Arabia and then got the lottery here and then they both came here. Wow. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Exactly. And so when we were in America, when he was in America, he was working like 2-3 jobs, and my mom was working also 2 jobs, and then at the same time my sister was born, so he couldn't really, he's a pharmacist by profession, and he couldn't really like renew his license here because it takes a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And so he just went the business route, and like 3-4 years later he had enough money to start a laundromat, and so he made a laundromat, and then one led to another, and then became really well off after that. That's
the American dream right there. So in terms of, and again, this is just like the central theme. We're gonna be talking about other things, but I just like tying it back to this. I want to say, were your parents always religious?
Yeah, from a very early age, my dad was very, very religious because it all came from my grandfather. My grandfather used to like instill a lot of religious beliefs in my dad, and my dad was the eldest, so he had to like, for all of his siblings, he had to be that role model. Like after my grandfather passed away, my dad was providing for my entire family from Saudi Arabia. Okay. So, and
do you think him being in Saudi Arabia had more of an impact? Because generally speaking, I've been in Bangladesh. I'd say cumulatively I've been there for a year of my life. Though it is a religious community and a predominantly Muslim society, I think overall there are a larger amount of people there who are a little less religious than you'd expect, comparative to Saudi Arabia, which I think are more concrete in their belief and how they think about the religion.
I agree with that to some extent, but where my dad is from in the village, it's a very and back then also it was a very simpler lifestyle, you know. As Bangladesh became more industrialized, commercialized, all that stuff, the city areas became similar to New York City, and although not as great as New York City, the people still act and do the same things.
Yeah, I mean they're advancing technologically, culturally, and they're getting more integrated with the global scale.
Yeah, they're becoming modern. Yeah, and so that also has an effect right now. But back then, in the village areas, there was no such thing as modernization. They're very stuck with their cultural roots, and with culture comes religion as well. So that was instilled in my family, and then my dad, obviously, when he moved to Saudi Arabia, it was more predominant Muslim. Like people were praying in their jobs.
Yeah, and that's another big thing is that it's intertwined with the society in terms of the workforce and everything.
Right.
So it makes it easier to do everything that you need to do.
Like for example, in Saudi Arabia, right? We pray 5 times a day. So every prayer they would. When the adhan would go off, all the stores would shut down. Like you can't buy anything,
That's really. I mean, it makes sense. But that's I never knew that.
Yeah.
So that just off the bat that just lets him follow the rules of the religion without any issue.
Yeah.
Because here, I think this is a big distinction. I also want to just bring this up really quick. Is that my dad came here in 1970, and his family back when they were in Bangladesh. So he was 12 in 1970. When they were in Bangladesh, they were already in the city, so they were in Dhanmondi, which was like a very like rich little area, and they had money back then.
Yeah.
and then they came here pretty early on. So he grew up here. So I think that's a big difference. I think between our parents. I just wanted to bring that up before I forgot.
So he moved here earlier.
Yeah, he moved here very early. So he was more intertwined with the society here. So I think because of that, praying kind of already, left his system in a way where it's like, you go to school, you start doing the things you do here, you start working a job, you start working a 9 to 5, this and that.
Yeah.
And it's not as intertwined in American culture, obviously.
Yeah.
But that makes a huge difference.
Of course, yeah. And your dad, he came here during the early days, right? So like during that time, there was not a lot of Muslims. There was not a lot of mosques to begin with. You know, so his support system wasn't there. As where my dad and my mom both had a huge support system. Yeah.
I mean, even in the 90s in America, I talk to my mom about this all the time. When my mom first came here, she came here in 1996 or 95, 94, a year or two before I was born. I was messed up the year. But she always talks to me about it because she compares what it was then to what it is today for her siblings that are coming over. And she would tell me that when she was here back then, she would never find other Bengali people. She would never find like other Muslim people. It was difficult to find areas of people from the same cultural background. And when you did, like, you make sure you stayed with them because you had that sense of security. Yeah. Versus now, it's like you go anywhere, you find a million Bengali people.
Like just for example, Jamaica, right? Jamaica Muslim Center. Yeah. Just Hillside Avenue, like 10 years ago, where it was completely like white and black, and now it's all Bangladesh.
I'd say probably like 85 to 90% Bengali people.
Yeah.
It's every time I'm there, it's a culture shock.
Yeah, it looks like Bangladesh, smells like Bangladesh.
It does smell like Bangladesh. It's kind of bad. Yeah. And it's as populated as Bangladesh. It has that like dense population feeling to it.
Yeah.
The next thing I actually want to go into was your affiliation with Jamaica Muslim Center. Okay. Because, one, did you start learning like Islamic teachings from JMC?
Yeah. So as far as my Islamic teachings go, from a very young age, well, from pre-K to 4th grade, I went to a Shia school called Razi. Although I'm not Shia Muslim, I'm Sunni Muslim. But my dad thought that would be the best place to have a good, decent education and some Islamic knowledge.
Oh, so you went to one of those dual schools where it's like a regular school and Islamic school together?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's called Razi. And over there, I had some good friends, had some like basic Islamic teachings. And at the same time, on the weekends, I would go to, JMC, right? So for like memorizing Quran, and learning like the basic etiquettes and stuff like that. So I was brought up in that culture to begin with, in that.
So setting. How many years did you go to that school? Was that just elementary school, or did you stay through?
So I moved at 4th grade, from to middle school.
To a regular middle school.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a pretty long time, from pre-K all the way to 4th grade.
Yeah, so from a very young age, I was surrounded by
that culture, the background. You had the support system from a very young age.
Yeah.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. Actually, because I never asked you any of these questions, but for me, I didn't start. For those of you who don't know, I come from also a Sunni Muslim family, first generation immigrants, all that stuff. But I didn't start learning the teachings until I want to say somewhere around 3rd or 4th grade. I went to Darus Salam by Hillside. It's right near Jamaica Muslim Center. But that was back when they were just like in a house. It was like really ghetto. Yeah. It was not a good little house. It was bad. Now it's a really nice masjid. They got a lot of funding.
Yeah.
But I went there and it was only for the weekends. So I went to a regular elementary school, and I'd say I wasn't really that dedicated to it. Probably just because of the fact that like I started kind of later on, and then I think around middle school I switched to JMC and started going on the weekends, and then even at that I wasn't that dedicated. But I kept going. I learned a lot, and then for financial reasons, my parents switched me over to tutoring online through a teacher in Pakistan.
Oh, and,
yeah. The thing is, it was actually, I think it was faster and I learned better because it would be every weekend for 2 hours on Saturday and Sunday. So 2 hours each Saturday and Sunday, just 2 hours, and we'd recite. He'd tell me the meanings. He'd tell me the story. Like he'd go through everything. Like it was one-on-one. It was very, very personal, and I went through learning the entire Quran, reading it. I think this was high school. So this was 9th and 10th grade, I think. And then 11th grade, I just became a degenerate. That was a quick transition.
So for me, right, when I transitioned from private Islamic school to public middle school, I could see the change looking back at it right now. I quickly transformed from being a good Muslim boy to starting to pick up cursing, to cheating, to stealing, whatever. So again, it goes back to the people around you, your environment, how you're brought up with, because that support system is so important at a young age.
It's the foundation of your moral compass, kind of. And I think with Islam, it's very important to have moral. Like, I think the main teachings of Islam have to do with moral compass, because for me, though I didn't have as strong of a foundation where like I went to a Islamic school, my mom would always try to instill every value that she found the most important into me as a child. She's like, these are the important things. Doesn't matter to me whether you pray 5 times a day or not. You need to know that these morals are the ones that which we enforce and need to follow.
Right.
So yeah, it's important. I mean, that support system, it goes back to that. So you started at 4 years old. That's so young. So when did you start playing a bigger role at JMC? Because I know you've always had, every time I go for Eid prayer, you're always doing something for JMC. You're working with them.
Yeah. So this is around high school, actually. In high school, I had like a little dip in my faith, and then towards 10th or 11th grade, I started getting more involved. One of my mentors, his name is Muhammad Hassan. He's a psychologist by trade, and also he lectures on the Quran and Islam and psychology involved in the Quran as well. And so he started up this youth program in JMC, and it started off with me just giving up like serving people drinks and stuff like that. And then after a while, like every Friday I would come back, and he started increasing my role slowly because he saw that I was coming every week. And then after that, I started, creating events, making events, and then I became part of the marketing team, and then became assistant youth director to him. And then after that, he left, and then I became the youth director of JMC.
Okay. So what's your role as the youth director?
So, well, I was youth director for about 2 years. Right now, I took a leave because I want to focus on my career and things like that. And so while I was there as youth director, I was, helping the masjid create events catered to youth and adults. To bring to basically gap the bridge.
Okay.
And
so like an older generation to today's youth, like the kind of like those who were born into American culture.
Right, and just like foster events that create dialogue between our older generation and the younger generation, because there is a disconnect between
100% there's a disconnect. I mean, there's a disconnect even if you're just born here and your parents were born here, just because of technology and stuff.
Exactly.
So on top of that, if you're an immigrant and all the changes happening in the last decade, like that gap is one that's so difficult to fill.
Exactly. And also at the same time, the youth program in its essence was just another way to have fun on a Friday night without violating the principles of Islam,
Okay.
And that's what essentially it was for. But it became so much more. It became a support system. It became a mentorship for young kids. We don't, at that youth program, we don't just teach people Islam. We teach people how to deal with their emotions, how to cope with drugs, how to get over breakups. We would talk about in these gatherings. We would talk about relationships because let's be honest, we're all human.
Yeah.
So that's what I try to do.
That's really interesting because this is. I don't really want to go too in depth into this, but I don't know if you know who Jordan Peterson is. Jordan Peterson.
No.
Okay, so he's a psychologist out of Canada, and there's been an uprising of him kind of stirring the crowd of what he says on people trying to better themselves.
Yeah.
So I'm going to sum it up very, as fast as I can and not really go into it. But he discusses how the younger generation doesn't have kind of a system set up for them to tell them what to do or help them, deal with these problems. And he doesn't have a system where, like you're saying, like people who are, dealing with breakups and such and, social problems. There's not a system to tell them, it's like, this is what you need to do. We're just focusing on learning and moving on. But you need that system to get information from an older generation. And he's kind of like trying to fill that gap in. But yeah, I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, you want to learn from the older generation because they went through everything that you went through, if not more, The information is already there. It's just about finding the right people and accessing that information. Why would you go through the same process again and not and go through a harder way of learning that information, you know, without, I mean, let's say for example, like you, when you become a dad, right, you would want your son to come to you for advice, you know, on things, right? And that's the main thing, the communication issue between the older and the younger generation.
It's so prevalent, and I have this conversation all the time with Pravin from my Sweet May, is that I think I don't know for other immigrant families, but specifically the brown community, you know, people from kind of Asian descent, like Indians or Bengali people, Pakistani people even, it's like, though like sometimes I don't know if this has happened to you, we want to talk to our parents, we don't know how, or you know, what to communicate to them, because there's a part of us that's like, how do we tell them this? Like, they're not going to be okay with us talking to them about this problem. And then the backlash of us telling them about it is enough fear where we just don't talk about it. Because I know for me, my high school experience, like I was having, and you probably know about this because we went to high school together, but I was doing a lot of stuff. Like probably wasn't, you know, the best for a high school student. My parents didn't want it to be going on. But obviously, like, I would never bring it up to them. I would never talk to them about it or like discuss the issue, and it would just be a problem that would get worse and worse, and they wouldn't understand, and I wouldn't understand, and that communication gap, since we never talked, it would never be filled. So we never really understood each other. Whereas now, since I'm a little bit older, there's a part of me that understands that I have to be the one that opens up to them because they don't know what's going on. So I kind of like am more mature with that. It's like I'm okay with the fear. I'm okay with like just telling them and, you know, having the backlash, because at the end of the day, it's gonna make our understanding of each other better. Though they won't like completely get it, like the understanding aspect of it will be kind of filled.
Yeah. So you're talking about communicating with your parents. Like, I didn't used to. I mean, my dad and we used to have a really good relationship, and then middle school came, you know, and I transferred, and I just started becoming tight and stuff like that, and around 11th grade, I decided to, like, you know, talk to my dad more when I had, like, coming back to the religion side, you know? And I talked to my dad about everything now, like, legit about everything. We talked about my friends in high school, you know, how one of my friends had a drinking problem, you know?
Talk about Aaron.
Yeah. So, drugs, we talk about girls, we talk about everything, you know?
See, I still haven't gotten there with my parents. Yeah. Like, kind of with my mom, maybe a little bit, but there's still some things that I'm, like, not okay with disclosing, because I still don't know what they would say.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't talk about dating. A lot of my friends who are girls, like, they'll know this. Like, I usually don't invite them to my house, just because, like, I don't know what will happen, but I'm kind of scared, so I just don't. Like, I don't want to do it still, which is
weird.
I'm not
trying to find out.
Yeah, I'm not trying to find out, because like, but it's weird because I'm 21. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a grown man at this point almost, and like that's just kind of like,
you know, your parents don't care what age you are. They'll
beat
exactly. You no matter what.
Because okay, this is I think this is what really traumatized me, is that the one time I did bring a female home was when I was dating her, and it was Tiffany, and you know, she was Asian, and then my parents found out I was dating her, and they're like, oh my god, like, what are you doing? And then I kind of like went down a rabbit hole of like horror, like just getting in trouble. So I think that kind of traumatized me to the point where it's like I just don't even want to try anymore. Like, so, but again, that's like that's a communication problem there. So it's like I don't know how to approach that. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, for me, with my dad, it's really easy because my dad's a businessman, and so like, and also with the Islamic background as well, he realizes that, you know, like, after the age of like 12 or 13 in Islam, you're considered an adult.
Yeah.
So he has to start treating me like an adult, and by doing that, I'm responsible for my own actions. Like, I think the problem is a big problem in parenting today is, especially Middle Eastern parenting, is that the parents try to have too much control over their children. Yeah,
I agree with that. I agree with that.
And what my dad did was he let me make the mistakes. Right? He gave me the advice. He let me make the mistakes, and I would realize that he's right. Yeah. And I would always come back to him. Right? So once he started implementing that, I started following his advice more strictly, you know? And it's kind of weird because the less control he had over me, the more I would follow his advice.
Honestly, it's a lot of truth to that, because for me, it's similar but different, because I kept getting in trouble. Was that with my parents, they were that controlling type. They wanted to know everything that I was doing, where I was, everything, like, you know, constantly. So I did the exact opposite. I didn't listen to anything they said. I just went out of my way and did everything wrong. But then on my own, I realized the wrongs, and then I came back.
Yeah.
And then so like they saw like the deviation from, you know, being good to bad and then coming back to it and like realigning myself. So I think that there's a better understanding there.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. The second part I want to go into is how you've seen the growth in JMC, because I mean, like you said, that, you know, Hillside and Jamaica, that area right there is just, it's so densely populated with Bengali and Muslim people right now. It's crazy. But I want you to just really quickly, do you remember the number for the Eid prayer last year? I don't know if you remember.
It was around like 12,000.
12. That is an outrageous number. Also, I remember some official came out from the local government. I forgot who it was. I forgot her name.
We had De Blasio come out too.
Yeah, cause that's crazy. And
I forgot that girl's name. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, she came out to kind of, you know, reinforce like what we were doing and give us faith that like this is okay in our community now.
Yeah.
But how have you seen that growth since you started? You know, and it's only been a couple years, but since you started a couple years ago to now.
So when I first started as being the official youth director, like we were taking a dip in the youth team because of the transition from our first to second, and then I was a third, so second to third. So the second youth director actually, he was working hard, but he had a lot of things going on at the same time, and so that youth program kind of dipped. But when I took over, I tried to build it back up, and always when you're trying to build something, it's hard. When it's there on the top, it's very easy to maintain it, you know? So I had to struggle with a lot of things like, you know, volunteers, because all of this is free, you know? So volunteers being, you know, strict with their time, doing the things that they need to do. But after all of that, you know, you see the fruits of your labor when the community grows, and we have our Jummah prayers, our Friday Jummah prayers, which went from 1,000 to maybe 1,500 people.
Okay.
Right.
And this is a course of how much time?
A couple of months.
Okay.
Yeah, a year, 2 years, give or take. And I started to see kids taking break from Edison during, you know, their lunch break
to come pray.
Wow. Yeah, and so we had to actually do a third Jummah. Like we would have two Jummahs, one for people who are you know, working early, and then one for the later shifts, right, on Hillside. And we had to do a third Jummah that's earlier than all of the rest of them
for the high school
kids.
Okay.
And so
was there enough high school kids that was warranted?
It was like 40 or 50 high school kids. Okay, so because you know, we have a Jamaica High there as well. And they cut up Jamaica High into like 4 different schools or something like that.
So, I thought they were getting rid of Jamaica High School. Like,
they did. They got rid of the name. They just 4 different schools now inside the building. Yeah, it's weird.
But it's the same building.
Yeah.
So why don't they just make it one conglomerate high school still?
I don't know.
That's the dumb. Okay.
I know.
Keep
Queens. So they would come from there as well, and you know, it was just nice. Like you could see like the kids were growing, you know, and they were trying to get to know their religion more.
Right.
And that's in part because of the work that we do at the youth team. And no credit to me. It's all credit to the volunteers who give out their hearts for the team, you know? So, yeah.
Just do me a favor really quick. Don't.
My bad.
No, you're good. It clips the mic a little bit. So, you said around like 11th grade, you started getting more back into your, you know, religious background, talking to your dad and stuff.
Towards the end of 11th grade.
Yeah. So, coming into college, right? So, this is kind of... I think it's interesting because coming into college usually, and you know, I'm a good example of that. When you come into college, you're like, I want to do college things. You know what I mean? Especially, 'cause, I mean, you're born here just like me.
Yeah.
Is you want to explore. You want to do all the, you know, crazy stuff. You want to drink. You want to do this. You want to do that. But you did the opposite. You know, you decided to take a role and be a part of the Muslim Student Association on campus, right? So was that off the bat, like just your freshman year? You're like, I want to find people I want to talk to. And this makes sense for me, or was it kind of like it found you type of thing?
So it's a little bit of both. One of my closest friends, I consider him a mentor and a brother as well. He lives right next to me in Queens. His name is Nafis. Call him Big Bro. Shout out to him. So like in my freshman year, instead of dorming, he said, come live with me off campus.
Okay.
And so we had this small house, 5-6 people. All Muslim guys, and he kind of like took me in under his wing, and then first day of school, you know how you have to like go to your classes, make friends.
Yeah.
So instead of going to my classes, I went straight to the union with him.
Okay.
And like he dragged me along and he introduced me to all the MSA people.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember this. The union, the second floor.
Yeah, had the small like the praying area.
The praying area, and that was the hub for all the MSA kids, right? And so he was introducing me to like maybe 20, 30 guys, like giving me their names. I was like, all right, I'm probably not gonna remember this, you know. But I just shook their hands, and they're also welcoming, you know. And again, I mean, it goes back to the security of knowing that they're from the same cultural background. You know what I mean? Exactly. And they were very accepting of me, you know, like, well, I was just like a random freshman,
right? You
know, and then they were accepting me as like a brother, you know.
Yeah.
And within a matter of a week, I felt like I belonged there. I felt like I knew them for longer than just a week, you know. And I really enjoyed that feeling. And as I continued with my freshman year, I just became part of the MSA. Okay. You know, and I made.
So you were just like a regular member. Yeah, just helping out.
We in our freshman year, we probably had maybe 10 or 15 freshman guys in our group, because we made our little own group, and those were like some of the best days, chill days I've ever had with them. You know, and it shows that like I don't need to go party, drink, you know, do all these things that I'll probably feel bad about later. Yeah. To have fun, you know, I could have fun on my own with these group of guys. It's about the quality of people around you that you have.
No, 100%, 100%. I mean, for me, I've probably mentioned this on a bunch of other recordings, but I came into college, and you've met a couple of my suite mates, of course, multiple times. I've lived with them all through the 4 years here. Yeah. Though they did have more of that mentality of college partying type of thing. A lot of the times we won't even do anything. We'll just be hanging out, and that's like some of the best times that we've had and we'll have. Yeah,
some of the best times are like not even playing video games or watching movies, just like sitting down on the couch talking.
Yeah, and actually that's I've mentioned this too. That's the reason I wanted to start the podcast. Is, you know, we realized having conversations, just sitting down talking to people, was just fun. Like, it's a good thing to do, and I personally like took that to heart, and I was like, I want to just keep talking to people. I love it. Yeah. Because you get so much from people, and a big thing about college is, you know, you meet people of so many different backgrounds. So same thing with them. Say you probably met people from different backgrounds, but you had something that was similar, something that held you together at the same time. So it made it easier to connect.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, MSA, different backgrounds, not so much. It's just generally from the Middle East. Okay. But I mean,
like experiences definitely. Maybe.
Yeah, different experiences for sure. You know, when you talk to a person and he starts telling you about his life or her life, you know, just so much behind that person, you know, like you only see the outside. Yeah. You don't know what somebody's going through on the inside. And just knowing all of that about somebody makes you closer to that person, and and when you guys relate those stories to your own life, you guys build a bond, you know. And that's a very genuine feeling.
Yeah, it's crucial to, you know, social understanding and being a full person, in my opinion. So when in the your role in MSA, when did it kind of increase? Was it the same as your role in Jamaica Muslim Center, where it was just like over time you kind of adopted more responsibilities, and you're, you know, since you were such a big part of it, you were just, you know, it just made sense as a decision to, you know, play a larger role?
Yeah, so like in my freshman year, I started off with, you know, just getting to know the people, helping setting up for prayers, you know, maybe doing like a talk or two. I gave the Friday sermon one time in my freshman year. And then the next year, I applied to become an extended board member, like part of community service. Yeah, e-board, Not official board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like we have a lower tier. Okay. You know. And I was like the community service co-head. And so we were like, we were instructed to make 2 or 3 events a month for community service. Like, you know, go to like a shelter or an orphanage or something like that. And I felt really good doing those things, you know, on campus. People came out to those events. The events were majority off campus. Okay. And we would have to go on a weekend, sacrifice a Saturday, go off campus, go to a place for a couple hours, and then, you know.
And this was with those same like group of people.
Yeah. Same group of people.
Friends.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, that just solidifies your bond even more. You're just doing stuff together.
Yeah, and not the same group. It could be different groups.
Yeah,
but like overall, it solidifies them within the club.
Community in the club. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And then from there, my third year, I became the president of the MSA, and that was a.
So you were only president for a year?
Yeah, only for a year. Okay. I kind of got burned out and at the same time, I wanted to take a step back and focus on myself for a bit. And not to say that I still don't want to help the community. I just want to take a pause, work on myself, and in the future have a greater impact on the community. You know.
So I mean, you're just trying to kind of restructure your balance in life,
right?
Which is logical, especially for a college student trying to get a job out of college.
Yeah, facts.
It's difficult out here. Is there any point in time you think I mean, I think you said this before, but did you ever feel left out in any way from, because a lot of people that are on this campus, other than people in that community, definitely. Like when people would mention the stuff that they were doing, is there any point in time where you felt left out?
I felt left out a couple of times, but I would always go back to my group of friends, hide back in my hole. But after junior year, after I stopped being the president, that's when I realized how much of a bubble MSA was. Yeah. And right now in senior year, when I'm taking a step back and I see it from the outside, I realize that it's a very, very closed group of people, which is good in a way, but it's also harmful because it doesn't let anybody new in. I said this, it doesn't lead to as much social growth as you could get. Yes. Because being on a college campus, you have people from every single background. And that's one of the things I took away from, talking to people, was that because I was never part of one singular group. I was always part of this room, and then I would go out and talk to, I like talking to everyone that I generally know. Yeah. So I talk to you, I get a little bit of what you're doing. You've even tried to, multiple times, like freshman and sophomore, you'd always try to get me to come out. And once or twice I did come out, but there's never a part of me that really felt it. And again, you were just doing, your duty as a club member, as a, fellow brother, trying to, get me to come out. As your boy.
As my boy. Yeah. And, I would every once in a while, but, it just wasn't for me. And I just tried it out and, I moved on. But it gave me an idea of, what you guys do. And when I've gone there, it's like, I felt it. It was just like, wow, like, it's cool. Like, this is their community. It just wasn't for me is all.
Right. And that's fine. But I'm realizing that, as an MSA, as part of Islam is to be inclusive of everybody, no matter where they are from, and
I think that's a thing that a lot of people don't get. A lot of people who haven't at least met someone from an Islamic background, or don't know much about the people or the religion, they think they're closed off because they're in those communities so often. But I think they're in those communities so often just because it's easier and they have that support system in a culture that is, again, a little more closed off to it, or it's like it's difficult to kind of do everything that you need to do. Yeah. So that them already kind of being a little secluded, I think it makes people think they are closed off, whereas it's not one leading to the other. You know what I mean? It just happens to be this way, and the community itself is actually extremely open and welcoming to people. And it's actually one of like the main teachings my mom would always tell me, and the religion itself says. But I think it's getting better over time. Like when I went to the prayer for Eid at JMC, I saw so many like African American Islamic people there praying, and I was just like, wow. Like I saw an Asian dude. Yeah, I saw an Asian dude, and I was like, whoa, like no way, like you're Muslim? Like
he was in New York, came to that prayer.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, dude, that makes sense. 12,000 people. It was Jamaica. No, which track?
It was the Edison Field.
The Edison Field. Okay. And it was packed. It was outrageously packed. I remember it was really hot. Yeah. And it was crowded. And it was sunny. I was sweating. I was
too many brown people in one place.
Yeah, too many. And the traffic was outrageous after. But I mean, 12,000 people coming together. That's not a small feat. That's huge. That's crazy. What were we saying just now? I forgot what we were talking about before this. Being closed off. So people not knowing how open the community is. And I think it's getting better, but I think there's still a little bit of stigma.
I mean, every group of people, every club on campus has its own challenges, and because MSA is so broad, it's Muslim, being a Muslim is so broad, it's very hard for a student organization to encompass and to market themselves to a wide group of people. And that's one of the challenges that all MSAs around all...
I mean, by definition, you're closing yourself... But you're technically closing yourself off because, you're of this faith, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Well, I mean, during my presidency as well, like, I had there was some complaints from past years
Mm-hmm.
that kind of piled up on my doorstep about like African American brothers, especially sisters,
Mm-hmm.
not feeling welcome in the MSA.
Really?
Yeah, and so, well, the brothers blessed because we would always play ball, we would be inclusive, we would go hang out,
Mm-hmm.
movies, all that stuff, and there was a lot of complaints from the sister sides, and so I actually sat down with one or two of them, and we had a one-on-one conversation, and they said, some of the sisters are very cliquey,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's natural to be cliquey, but
I think it's a little bit more prevalent in the brown girl society.
right, yeah, it is.
I don't know why. I don't know how to explain it, but I've definitely noticed that.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but you can be cliquey but also be accepting of people,
Mm-hmm.
and they might not fit into your group, but sharing some time, having the decency to go out of your way, and
The attempt, like
the attempt is worth
trying,
it,
yeah.
and that's what she was hurt by, but now it's less,
Mm-hmm.
now the issue has been kind of resolved to an extent, but
It is what it is.
Yeah.
So, I know we're very near New York, and obviously we're in a college campus, so it's kind of as liberal as it'll get. So we definitely don't face as much of the. I don't want to use discrimination because that's not that has a negative connotation to it.
okay.
But kind of the not knowing aspect of it that I was talking about of the religion and the people from the background. Do you think that during the Trump presidency run, when he was going up for election, putting on the bans on these countries, when ISIS kept claiming all of these terror attacks, right? Which they keep doing, and it pisses me off so much because there is a very high probability that they're not doing any of them, and they're just claiming it for claiming it reasons.
Yeah.
But do you think that during that time, when there's those neo-Nazi uprisals, when all this was happening, and there's so much aggression, I think, in the country, which I think has died down a lot. I think it's gotten so much better. But do you think, during those months, did you feel an energy, like a difference in energy in people?
Yeah, I did for 100% because now that's like a kick in the gut to the Muslim community. It's
Mm-hmm.
wake up. It's like get involved.
Mm-hmm.
This could have been avoided, but you guys were sleeping.
Yeah.
We have so many mosques around the country, so many community bases, so many places to get our own people into government,
Mm-hmm.
but we're sleeping.
Yeah.
And Trump becoming president is probably one of the greatest gifts to the Muslim community because it finally woke them up. It banded all the Muslim communities together.
Right.
Against a common enemy. You could say. The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah.
So all the Muslim communities that had like beef with each other, like the Arabs and the Egyptians and the Bengalis and the Pakistanis, whatever.
It's like these feuds are nothing.
Yeah.
We're fighting our own kind, and we're not helping anyone in this situation.
Exactly. It's like let's let this beef go. We have something bigger to deal with.
Yeah.
And I think that was beautiful, and you could feel the energy just around JMC. People proactively, little kids,
Mm-hmm.
like 15, 16-year-old kids started going around getting voter registration forms,
Mm-hmm.
getting people to sign up.
Mm-hmm.
So for the long run, so when the voting time comes a couple years down the line, that's when we'll be ready.
Right.
They're starting now, and that's beautiful.
And I think that's honestly, I never thought about it like that. I'm happy it's a positive change. I mean, for me, I am a little distanced from the community, so I wouldn't feel it directly. But it's awesome to hear. I completely agree with you on the fact that I think the Islamic community and the immigrants who've come here from Middle Eastern, Asian countries, have never really played a political role in local government, whether it be national government. I think it's because of the fact that they're immigrants. Yeah, I think it has to do with it because my parents specifically, like I know them, like they're working to get money, financial security, focus on the kids, the development, and they don't really have time to focus on government. And I mean, even me, like I never really had any knowledge really on government or what was going on around me, locally speaking or nationally speaking, until I came to college because like my household didn't have any of that. But I think it's crucial that you play a role. You need to represent your community and get your voice out there and be heard.
Yeah, so it's kind of shocking. I actually have more knowledge on Bangladeshi politics than American politics.
Wow.
because of just the community that you're around with. Like it's people just talk about back home, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they forget that this is home now.
Yeah.
Right, and to make this officially your home, and to when you buy a house, you decorate it, right?
Yeah.
This is a decorating phase, right?
I like that. That's a good analogy.
Yeah. So.
'Cause my mom's been decorating her house like nonstop. We just moved in last year. It's just every time I go back, there's a new plant. And I'm like, do we really need this plant? Mom's like, look at it. It looks nice. I'm like, I guess.
Does your mom grow tomatoes and stuff in the backyard?
No, we haven't started doing that yet. Yeah, but definitely will. Because our old house, even in Queens, we had cucumbers, tomatoes. We had lau, with squash.
Yeah.
We had peppers, mint. We had mad stuff, but it was a house in Queens. So now we're now in Long Island, so we have a lot of space in our backyard. So whenever she's more ready, but she's been dealing with a 4-year-old, 5-year-old. So yeah, it kind of takes a lot of time.
That's your sister?
Yeah, my sister's 5 now.
Okay, wow.
It's crazy, right?
It's been a while.
Yeah. She was born sophomore year of high school, I think. No, 2012. What is that? Yeah, sophomore year. Yeah, it's weird seeing her develop into like a person now. It's interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Last thing I want to talk to you about is I talked to you about this a little bit when I was asking you to come on.
Okay.
Is your goal to go out to Umrah? So I want you to explain a little bit of what Umrah is versus what Hajj is, and why you've made the decision to go at such a young age. So what I consider a young age, at least.
So Umrah is different from Hajj. So in Hajj, right, there's only a certain time of the year you can go, and you do a little bit more. While in Umrah, you only do Umrah you can go any time during the year. And there's only certain things you do. I don't know if you know, but you go around the Kaaba.
I don't know.
So you do like.
I don't know. Okay, so I know what they do, but I don't know like the specifics of it.
Okay.
So I know, like I've seen video because it's honestly mesmerizing, like how many people, the congregation of the amount of people that are there.
Yeah.
Especially for Hajj, because Hajj is once a year.
Yeah.
So it's just like I don't know what the number is, but it looks like millions of people just walking around. But I don't know the specifics of exactly what they're doing.
So actually in Hajj, I don't know if there's a picture on Google, right? It's towards the end of Hajj, all the people who are doing pilgrimage, they gather in this place called Arafah, Mount Arafah, right? And they spend the entire night there. And there's a drone picture of basically the entire mountain, and it's white. Because
people wearing the robes.
Yeah, and it's like dotted to the dot. There's like about 2 million people there on that one mountain.
So it is millions of people.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's crazy.
Yeah. So it just.
So how far is the mountain from the actual Mecca, which is the house of?
So it's like about 2 days journey, and they.
So the process is you go to Arafah, you go to the mountain, you stay there, and then you do pilgrimage to Mecca.
No, it's the other way around. It's reversed.
So you
go to Mecca first. You do your stuff, and then you go to Arafah, and that's the last day basically.
Okay.
So
is there anything before going to Mecca?
So before going to Mecca, so on the way to Mecca, right? You have to wear the ihram, the 2 pieces of cloth.
Okay.
And that's basically signifying that you're starting your pilgrimage officially. And so you can wear it. A lot of people they wear it on the airplane before they land in Mecca.
Right.
And once you do that, you start making the circles around the Kaaba, around the house of God.
House of God, yeah.
And then you go into walking between Safa and Marwa, which are 2 mountains.
Okay.
So
what was it called?
Safa and Marwa.
Safa and Marwa.
So that's significant because we believe that Prophet Ibrahim, he left his wife in the desert, and she had a baby with him.
Okay.
And so she was looking for water, and so she would run between the 2 mountains
back and forth
7 times. And in the 7th time, when she ran, God basically granted her from her son's feet the well of Zamzam water.
Okay. Is that why like every time I know family members who've gone to Hajj, they'll come back with like the bottles of water from there. So is that from was it like a spring?
Yeah, so it's basically a spring inside the ground, and it has not been stopping giving water.
Okay.
So for about 1,500 years, 1,600 years, well, probably more than that, right? This spring has been giving water nonstop, and think about how many gallons of Zamzam have been given to people all over the world. You know,
millions of people every single pilgrimage, and every single time I know, like, they'll come back with like a good amount of water.
Yeah.
And every time I get sick and we have that moment, like, here, drink some of this.
Yeah,
it'll
it's like everything. It's our equivalent of holy water.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so first part was wearing the articles of clothing. Then you go to the 2 mountains. So you walk back and forth to the mountains.
Yeah.
And then you go to Mecca for prayer. So you do that. So, like, how many like roundabouts are there?
It's 7.
7?
Yeah.
Okay, so to signify Ibrahim's wife going back and forth.
Yeah, so that's for the mountains. Yeah.
But is it also 7 for the revolution?
Yeah.
Like the rotations?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's also like a bunch of other stuff. For Hajj, there's like the stoning. Is in a different place from Mecca. There's a stoning of like the 3. There's like 3 pillars that signify the devil, Shaitan.
Right. Okay.
And you take rocks and you throw it at it, and it's a signification of that. A lot of what our forefather Ibrahim did, and Hajj is a very tough process.
My uncle, when he went actually last summer, I believe. But when he went and he came back, he lost like a good amount of weight.
Yeah.
And he was like, he just told me he was exhausted.
And now it's getting easier because before you would have to walk the entire journey, but between the journeys now they're doing a train system.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's
technology.
Nice. They have a lot of money, man. They have a lot of money.
I mean, one of the main pillars of Islam is donation. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not even that. Just because of the amount of people that are going to pilgrimage or to Umrah, like half pilgrimage basically, they're making billions of dollars.
Okay.
Right, but that always goes back into the foundation itself.
Yeah.
So they always do like a renovation. They always do like they invest in the cleaning crew. You know, because maintaining that huge site is very hard. You know.
And I just want to clarify something really quick for people who are listening: is that when I mention donation, it's not like I mention it in a bad way. Where it's like, oh, they're taking the money and they're investing. It's like that's a very good part of like the Islamic communities is that they'll invest in the growth of the community. And a good example, like really quick, is the mosque by me, so New Hyde Park. I forgot what the full name was. Like it was a Muslim. I forgot what it's called. The New Hyde Park mosque, though. I think it cost with the land for the building like around $4 million. Something outrageous because it's so expensive in Long Island. But they only. I remember them saying. I think they only came out to around like $50,000 or $60,000 worth of debt after all the donations that were pulled together, and it's awesome because it's a building that's used by so many people now. Whenever I go, it's too many people now. Like the building, they made it pretty big, but even at that, it's like there's so many Muslim people around that it's overpopulated. But yeah, that's what donations go to the building of the community itself. So that's a good thing.
And another thing, just going back to Hajj and Umrah, and besides Mecca, there's a city called Medina.
Okay.
And that's known as the Prophet's city.
Yeah.
Because it's, he lived most of his life there after he was banned from Mecca.
Muhammad.
Yeah, Muhammad.
Okay, not
Peace be
Ibrahim.
upon him.
Yeah.
And so while you're in Medina, I've gone to Umrah many times. It's gonna be like my 4th or 5th time, and every time I go to Medina, it's very calm, very peaceful. There's not a single place I've been to that's as peaceful as Medina, and I can't put a finger on it, like what it is. It's just.
How many times have you been to Medina?
3-4 times.
3-4 times. Okay. So did you go just with your parents?
Yeah. So all my past events have been with my parents. This is the first time I'm going with just a friend.
Okay.
One of my close friends.
So we talked a lot about Hajj. Now I want to kind of specify a little bit more on the difference between Umrah. So like, from Hajj, which is a full pilgrimage, versus Umrah, as you kind of mentioned, is like a half pilgrimage.
Yeah.
So like, what is the distinction between the two, and why would you choose the latter?
So Umrah again is during at a certain period of time, and Hajj is expensive.
Right.
Especially for a college student who's broke, trying to pay my debts. So that's one, the cost factor. 2, the timing. During the summertime, it's very hot in Saudi Arabia, and just because we're on a lunar calendar, Hajj is falling at summer, probably for like another 3-4 years, right? And so that's gonna be very tough to do. That's number 2, just the timing. And 3, the difference for me was, I'm going on Umrah with half of my money and half of my dad's money.
Okay.
And Hajj is supposed to be when you're...
you're like fully accomplished, like you're settled. This is it. From this point on, I know that my life is going to be like being a devout, Islamic follower.
Exactly, yeah. And so Hajj would be on your own money, and there's nothing wrong with your dad sponsoring or anything, but like for me personally, I would want it to be like
it's
an
like the
accomplishment.
principle of that, yeah.
So like I want it to be on my own money. So
okay.
And Umrah, the difference is there's no stoning, there's no walking to Arafah, there's no like long journeys besides going from Mecca to Medina.
Okay.
And it cuts out a lot of the travel from Hajj.
Okay, so it seems right to call it half pilgrimage. You're kind of experiencing part of the process, but not all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So when are you planning on going to Umrah?
March 8th. I'll be flying.
Oh, that's soon.
Yeah.
So how long are you going to be there?
I'm going to be there the entire spring break, hopefully.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
So I'll be coming back on the 18th.
Okay. So how is it going to be? It's going to be expensive. It has to be expensive.
It's around like, so the packages were like $2,000.
Okay.
And this was like for 4 people.
Yeah.
Like you're going to share a room with 3 other people, And me and my friend, we just did the stuff on our own. We bought the hotel separately and everything like that. It came up to like $1,700. And so
that's not that bad.
And that's for 2 people.
Yeah.
So
that's not that bad at all.
Yeah.
Okay, a few other questions just from my end because I'm uncultured in the religion, which is sad to say. Honestly, I kind of feel bad, but so I know one of the processes is you have to shave your head, right? I think that's if I'm not mistaken.
For Umrah, you don't have to.
Okay.
Like, you could cut a little bit of. A lot of people they just cut a little bit of their hair, but for Hajj, yeah. Like
so why is that?
It's like. I guess like 6. I'm actually not 100% sure.
Okay, cool. It's not just me.
Yeah, it's signifying like like new man, new beginning.
Okay.
New life.
Okay. So the second thing, do you have to grow out your beard? Because I know my uncle grew out his beard, and like a lot of my uncles who have gone, or like family members who have gone, have grown out their beard.
Well, so what is okay? So let's get into this for a bit.
Break it down.
So what is the beard kept for? The beard is kept because it's a sunnah. A sunnah is a practice of the Prophet, peace be upon him, right? So a sunnah of a Prophet can be a thing he says, does, wears, anything, right? And a big issue in the Desi community is that if you don't have a beard, you're not religious, or you can't be a leader of prayer or whatever. So what is the beard? A beard is just sunnah. That means it's not mandatory.
This is a plus. It's like a little check on your like.
It looks nice. Yeah. A Prophet used to do it. There could be some significance behind it. We don't know for sure, right? But at the end of the day, it's just something extra. What's more important than the outer exterior of being a Muslim is the inner exterior. The inner, the inner personality. The inner exterior. So your personality is worth more, right? And the Prophet even has sunnah on how to become a better person, right? And I feel like we as a community focus too much on the outer than the inner. We give more importance to the beard rather than being, inclusive to all people.
Well, right? It's getting very spiritual. I was just kind of wondering if you needed a beard. Mine was a little bit. The question was a little bit more minimal than that. It was just do you need a beard to go?
Okay, so bottom line, you don't need a beard.
Okay. I think it's funny because my mom will always mention it now because I always keep my beard.
Yeah.
And she's been noticing. I think beards are in right now. Like you know what I mean. It just a couple of years ago, beards weren't really in. Like it wasn't like fashionable to have like a beard or like a brolic beard. She always says like all these people like they're going for sunnah without even going for sunnah. It's like a fashion thing now to get sunnah. I'm like I guess like.
Bro, think about how baby you would look without your beard, man. Like,
no, I tell people all the time. People don't believe me. When I don't have a beard, I drop a couple years off. Like if I went to like buy beer or something, they would 100% card me.
Yeah.
And then with the beer, like even when I was like 19, 20, like if I'd go and I would want to buy something and I had to be 21 over, they wouldn't question me.
Yeah, bro, I look like an infant without my beard, man. Like,
yeah, it's bad. But it's interesting that it's just fashionable now.
Yeah. That's nice.
Okay, I think that answers all of my questions. Yeah, I learned a lot more than I thought I was going to learn, but I'm happy to learn because honestly, like I though my parents tried to teach me so much as when I was younger, as I was growing up, I feel like I didn't absorb a lot of it just because I had I was younger and I had that just general disrespect towards learning something I didn't want to learn. But I really regret that, because even if I didn't put it into practice, even if it didn't become an integral part of my life, like I would have picked up in an entire culture and just like societal like background of like all these people, and known more of just like why I want to say we, but I'm not really that big of a part of it. I feel like it's disrespectful to say we, but like what the Islamic community does, and I'm glad to have you here to kind of inform the people who listen, even though it's not that many people, but inform some of the people who listen on all these things. And
just run really quick before we end on that note. Being a Muslim, right, and learning more about Islam, I actually didn't learn a lot when at my young age. I just learned the core principles,
mm-hmm.
right? I got more into it when I was in my low times, and I think that's very important, because your brain, you as a person, learn through pulling. Your brain learns through pulling, not
mm-hmm.
through pushing. Like when you're younger, you could your parents could like try to push information into your brain, but you're not going to pick it up if you don't want to pick it up.
Yeah.
And so as you grow older, as you want to learn more about your faith, your morals,
you need to want it genuinely from yourself. A genuine self-interest.
You have to question, and then your brain
yeah
pulls it in. So I think that's how I started to learn more.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, that's what I'm doing now. I mean, I'm probably, honestly, like I was thinking about it earlier, it's like I've been trying to read more books. There's a part of me that really wants to read through a translation of the Quran, because I've never read it fully, just to know and understand some of the teachings, some of the stories, because there are some great stories, like the story of Ibrahim you just said. That's it's like a biblical same thing. It's an archetypal story that explains reasonings behind some of the things we do and why we do them.
Yeah, and it's awesome that you have that want.
Yeah. When you get older, you just want to learn. It's good. But yeah, on that note, thank you for being here.
Anytime.
Sorry you had to wait a little bit before I got you in, but it's good talk. And yeah, thanks.
See you soon.